Hello folks, welcome to another installment of Blackhawks Lacrosse Club off-season tutorial. Today we're going to be teaching you how to shoot. There's really two ways of shooting. You can shoot with space, what we call time and room, and you can shoot on the run. And that's exactly what it is, shooting on the run. When teaching time and room shooting, we're going to break it down to two parts. We're going to start with the lower half of your body and then worry about your upper half and what you're going to do with the stick when you're actually shooting. Your footwork when shooting time and room is imperative. It's important that you start with a good athletic base when you're receiving or calling for the ball. You don't want to be too high in your stance because then it'll be difficult to receive the ball if it's not put right on your ear. So start with a good athletic base, feet shoulder width or slightly wider than shoulder width. After you've received the ball, you want to gradually shuffle into what I call a crow hop, very similar to the technique of a baseball player, throwing the ball in from the outfield or receiving the ball as a shortstop or middle infielder, throwing the ball to first base. So you're just going to take your back foot and back crossover and then push off to your front side. Sometimes players just like to kind of shuffle all at once. Either way, it's fine as long as you're getting into a shuffling motion towards the cage. Okay, your upper body is very important as well. The first thing you want to do upon receiving the ball is, of course, drop your top hand, but unlike passing, where our elbow's generally going to be rather tight to our rib cage, we want to extend our elbow off our rib cage pretty much as far back as we can. Once we're here, we now want to drive our front elbow forward until we get to what's called the slot, which is the brow of our helmet. Once we're here, that's really where we're going to shoot the ball. And we're going to push with our top hand and pull as violently as possible with our bottom hand, just like that. The accuracy of your shot, in addition to how well your stick is strung and how comfortable you are with the stringing of your stick, the accuracy really comes down to your bottom hand control. A common mistake I see with young players is that they pull their bottom hand off their body. Wherever your bottom hand goes is typically where the ball is going to go. So if you want to hit corners and hit spots, it's important that your bottom hand is very disciplined and it should go right to your front hip. As we become an elite shooter and we want to change levels, the technique with the bottom hand is just the same. So if we start low and we want to elevate high, again, it's important that my bottom hand is tight and within my framework. We end up pulling the ball when our bottom hand pulls outside of our framework or goes off our hip or off our shoulders. So again, to recap, upon receiving the ball, we want to extend our elbow off our rib cage, maybe cradle one time, and then drive our front elbow, push with our top hand, and pull with our bottom hand. And again, just like dodging and everything else that we do in lacrosse, we want to finish. We want to finish with our weight distributed onto our front foot. So your back foot should come off the ground and all of your weight should be distributed straight towards the cage. There's a couple minor techniques that you want to start to focus on as you become an elite shooter. One of them is hiding the ball. So as you're reaching back and separating your elbow from your rib cage, it's important that you almost hide the stick behind your head by twisting and having torque at your hips. That will hide the head of the stick from the goalie to give the goalie less time to see and react to the ball. Another detail we want to focus on as we become elite shooters is changing our levels. When we first teach young kids how to shoot, we always teach them how to shoot what I call 12 to 6. That's a really extreme overhand delivery, like 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock on the clock. But as you become an elite shooter, you can start to change levels, going from over the hand to 3/4 hand, coming right across your shoulders, off the hip, and then of course, low to high, like a submarine shot. And like everything else, throwing, catching, and shooting, to be an elite player, we have to be able to do these things both with our right and our left hand. There's hardly anything in the game more satisfying than hitting the upper 90 part of the cage or going bar down and hearing that ping sound. It's exhilarating. Yet, to be a true killer in this game, it's important that you can hit spots that are not just lethal sounding, but also lethal to the goalie. One of the best places to put the ball is off hip. That's the most difficult save for a goalie to make because he's got to bring his stick around the furthest. And of course, as you're changing levels, it's important also to use the ground. Shoot bounce shots and skip shots. And again, change where you aim when you shoot your skip shots. The further you skip the ball out from the cage, the higher it'll go into the cage. So make sure that you're not just chucking it at the goalie's feet, but rather deliberately placing the ball in parts of the field that the ball will bounce and really make the goalie change levels. Okay, there's two ways to get to the cage, generally speaking, when we're shooting on the run. One way to get there is by running the alley or dodging the alley, and the other is sweeping or running across the goalie's face And again, that technique is just called sweeping. So our young players here, Parker and Max, are gonna show you both techniques, both alley dodging and sweep dodging. One of the most important techniques when shooting on the run is the transition between carrying and shooting. Oftentimes, especially with young players, going from carrying full speed to getting in a rhythmic shooting position is very difficult, and they sometimes lose the ball, especially early on in their career when they're trying to learn that technique. Really, the technique between carrying and shooting, the key is that you just continue, as you slide your top hand down, you just continue to cradle, or what I like to say, kind of stir the soup with the top, with the head of my stick. So when we're stirring the soup, our top hand is still cradling, or your bottom hand if you're a bottom hand cradler. The head of the stick is still going in circular revolutions. And this is something that elite players sort of do naturally, and they don't really have to think about it. But frequently, coaches kind of overlook teaching this technique to younger players. So they'll struggle in that transition from running full speed to getting in their shooting motion full speed. When you actually get into your shot shooting on the run, the technique is almost the exact same as shooting time in room. You want to separate your elbow from your rib cage, pull your front elbow until the stick is at your brow, and then you're going to do the same push-pull motion, making sure that you have a nice disciplined bottom hand that basically touches your front hip. And of course, the bottom hand will change as the shooter changes levels, whether that's 3/4, sidearm, or even a submarine. Most important when shooting on the run is finishing. And to put the most amount of velocity on the shot, we have to not just shoot with our hands and our arms, but also with our lower half and our core. In order to get the ball to really jump out of my stick, in addition to getting a good whip motion with my push and my pull, it's important that I activate my core and I twist my hips as I shoot, and the twist should be so violent that I get into a back pedal as I finish my shot. This has been Coach Tallman with BLC seniors Max Calabrese and Parker Embett. I hope you enjoyed what you saw. Make sure if you did, you follow us on our social at BlackhawksLaxGA on
Instagram and Facebook, Twitter and YouTube.
And of course, work hard and get better.